Excuse me.
Started.
Okay, yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Pallavi, for starting the recording. So we will proceed ahead with our session right now. Okay. So a very warm welcome to all of you guys in our session. To those of you guys who are from India, good morning. To those of you guys who are from US, good evening. And let us start our session. Now, before we start our session, a little bit about me. Hello, everybody. I am Manoj. I'm having a total experience of 18 years in SAP, and out of that, 6+ years I've been working on Ariba implementation, and another 3 years I have worked in Ariba, but that was in the support system. So in total, 9 years I've worked in Ariba, but 6 years of implementation experience, 3 years of support projects in Ariba, which I have done. I have worked on total of 6 projects in Ariba till now. Now, I have worked on the whole of Ariba. That means like in old terminology, if you say upstream, downstream, and integration, I have done. In new terminology, you can say rather than upstream, you will say strategic sourcing solutions. And in downstream, you will not say downstream, but you will say buying and invoicing solutions. So I worked on all these things. Now, excuse me. Uh, yes, Ariba for the last 9 years. But before that, also I was working in SAP SRM. So my functional field or the domain field over here was basically procurement only. So only the technology changed. SAP SRM on premise, SAP Ariba on cloud. Now, apart from this, I am also working on SAP Fieldglass last almost 4.5 years. Ariba and Fieldglass both in the projects. Now, coming back to our sessions, a few rules, guys. Why? Because as we give a little bit of intro of our institution, this Ariba training we have been doing from 2017. We have successfully trained almost 2,400 plus participants till now, and on an average, every month we will have multiple batches. Starting from to three, 2 to 3 batches we will have every month. Now, few things we have seen is like you cannot have a theoretical session. Why? Because if you are giving theoretical knowledge, it's not going to help anybody. Why? Because theory is good, but when you will go to a project, nobody will basically check your theoretical knowledge. They are going to basically say these are the real business problems, how you are going to resolve it. So, in short, what we are trying to do during our sessions from 2017, we are trying to share our experience, what we have gathered while working in these implementation projects. Because at the end of the day, when you will go in a project, they will basically give you real business issues or problems. And there you have to design the solution. How you can design the solution? I find a solution for that problem. So that is what we have been doing. So you can think of these sessions as knowledge transfer sessions, what we have done in our project. So that is why if you see in the screen right now, a lot of you might be thinking that why this guy has opened up a blank notepad. We will basically begin with PPT. Yes, that is why I said that we are not going to learn theoretical Ariba. PPT means theoretical Ariba. Okay. Now, rather than wasting time making you understand what is practical Ariba, what is theoretical Ariba, right? Let us right now go inside and see it. But before that, I will urge all of you guys, if you are having any queries or question, keep it with yourself. Why? Because when you will keep this thing with yourself, what will happen is like our flow will not be broken. Otherwise, what will happen is like if the flow is broken, it will become like a fish market or a normal market. It will become uncontrolled over there. So we cannot basically give you the full knowledge over there. So that is why what we will do, This is not only for the demo session, this is for the all the sessions. First we will show you the content, we will make you understand the content, then we will have a question answer session. So if you have any question or answers, please just write it down somewhere in a notebook, or you can just open up a notepad in the laptop or the workstations where you are basically seeing this thing. Type in your queries over there. When the question answer session will begin, you can ask me those questions. Okay, enough of these things. Now, let us start. First and foremost thing. Oh, it is too much small. Okay, just a moment. I think it's much more visible, but if I increase it to 24, it would be good. Yeah, I think it's pretty much visible for all of you guys. Excuse me. Okay, now let us begin with what is SAP Ariba. Now, whenever I ask this question, what is SAP Ariba, they will, everybody will basically try to give me an answer just like when we were in engineering or when we were, studying in school. SAP Ariba is a software where we can do operational procurement, where we can do strategic procurement and implement it based on the cloud services. Now, what is operational procurement? What is strategic procurement? No idea, boss. Or operational procurement, which will happen at a operational level, strategic procurement, which will happen at the strategic level. No, the thing is, we used to do rote memorization at that point of time, correct? Just whatever we will basically read it, memorize in our mind, and just write it down. But if somebody asks you that, okay, you have worked in a project, what is Ariba? Simplify it, make me understand. Then I will say it's a on cloud services. On cloud services means what? That means you don't need to install this system in the client premises. That means you will not ask your client, hey boss, buy a server, install this application over there. It's just like Gmail. You will type in the gmail.com in any browser. You will need a browser, you will need an internet. Then type in gmail.com, give in your user ID password, you can enjoy the services. So first and foremost thing, SAP Ariba is a on cloud services based software. Just a moment. So on cloud services based software focusing on procurement related activities. I did not say procurement. I said procurement related activities. What does it mean? That means any client who wants to basically do procurement, how they will do it? They will have their own business process for procurement, right? Nobody will have a same business process as that of standard Ariba. So they will not have it. So what we have to do, we have to implement the client's procurement process based on what? Based on the client's process, we have to implement it into Ariba. So that is why I said procurement related activities. So when I say procurement related activities, it can be anything. It can be P2P. Majority of you guys who are coming from a procurement domain, you will know procure to pay. There is another process, S2P, source to pay. Now within P2P, procure to pay, there will be two sub branches: direct procurement, indirect procurement. They are not same. So when I am saying procurement related activities, I am referring to all these processes and sub processes. So that means whatever may be the processes which are involved in procurement, you can basically do it within Ariba. And Ariba is not an on-premise system. Sorry, software. It's an on-cloud software, just like gmail.com. You don't need to install it into a system. Open up a browser, have a working internet connection, type in gmail.com, give your user ID password, that's it, done. Then you can use it. Directly use the services. Same over here. So this is the meaning of SAP Ariba. And I'm damn sure if you go somewhere, you will not find this definition. Why? Because this definition is what I have understood about Ariba after working on Ariba on different projects. So this is what I was talking at the beginning of the session. No theoretical things, practical things only. Now, okay, this is SAP Ariba, very good Manoj. What else? Now, Ariba have solutions. As I was basically saying previously, it was called Upstream and Downstream. Now, uh, old wine and new bottle. And what is that? Buying and invoicing. Excuse me. Okay. So these are the two solutions which we are basically using in Ariba. Yes, I still call them upstream and downstream, but Ariba, not only Ariba, SAP always have a knack for giving a new names to their solutions, so that what you can say, like uh, it will add value in front of the client. Oh, something new is there. So that is why upstream is basically told by SAP as of now that these are strategic sourcing solution. Downstream means buying and invoicing. Okay. Now, what happens? What happens in upstream? What happens in downstream? Why? Because whenever you will go to any project, the first and foremost thing, see, this was basically very important in 2014-15 at that point of time. Why? Because at that point of time, whenever we used to go to work with clients, Ariba was basically launched in 2010 on cloud solution. Ariba used to also have on-premise solution from 1996 to 2010. In 2010, they migrated from on-premise to on-cloud solution. So 2014 means just 4 years old. So majority of the client, they never understood what is Ariba cloud solution. So whenever we used to go in a project, they always used to ask us, okay, which one we will use, upstream and downstream. But now, from 2018-19 onwards, what we have seen is like now clients are more confident. They know about Ariba solution. You don't have to basically make them understand, hey, the upstream is for you or downstream is for you. Now none of your clients will basically ask which one we will implement. Why? Because SAP Ariba has a pre-sales team. The pre-sales team will help them find it out. Why? Because ultimately a client can have SAP Ariba subscription. There is no licenses concept in Ariba subscription. And for that subscription, they have to sign a contract with SAP Ariba. And before the contract, SAP Ariba will give them a demo. And at that point of time only, Ariba will propose them, oh, you need upstream or downstream or both. Excuse me. Okay. Now, since it is not required, that means you don't have to propose it to your client. So please don't think that you don't need to understand what is upstream and downstream. Why? Because you will see from today's session till the last session what we are doing in our whole batch. is we are trying to understand what's the difference between one procurement process, like what's the difference between a P2P and a S2P, procure to pay versus source to pay. How is upstream and downstream coming into this whole picture? Majority of the guys who are basically coming in our batch, majority of them will be from or SRM background. Will come to Ariba. Now the first issue with them is they will think whatever happens in and SRM, same thing will happen in Ariba. But remember, Ariba has a different architecture. I'm not talking about source code. SRM is basically built on ABAP or whatever WebDin Pro or whatever may be the thing. Ariba is based on Java. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the architecture, how the solution is arranged, how the solution is built over there. SRM and remember SRM and was basically in-house, developed by SAP itself. Ariba was not developed in-house. Why? Ariba Cloud version was launched in 2010. SAP acquired Ariba in September 2012. So SAP has not built this solution. They have not even done the architecture. It was done by Ariba when it was not a SAP company. So that is why all of you have to be careful. Why? Because trust me, guys, I have also done the mistake. Same mistake. I have done the same mistake, and I'm glad to basically tell all of you guys in our session that yes, I also made the same mistake when I migrated from SRM to Ariba. I also made the same mistake. But please don't repeat my mistake. Okay. Now let us try to understand what happens in upstream. So whenever you will see upstream as strategic procurement, so here strategic sourcing means basically sourcing, contracting, all those things will happen. So that means what we are trying to do, we are trying to find the for a product. Now when I say trying to find the best source of supply for a product, what does it actually means? Source of supply means what? It means a lot of things, but what is the main conclusion? Supplier, price, these are the two major things, right? There are other things also, but these two are the major thing when I say source of supply. Okay, but here which supplier and what is the price? So that means in upstream majorly what we are trying to do, we are trying to find the best supplier who will give the best price for the product. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do in upstream. Let's come to downstream. What we are trying to do over here. So downstream is saying keep us buying and invoicing. That means PR, PO, GR invoice. Excuse me. That means the starting point is PR, purchase equation. Now, when I say purchase equation, can you submit, I'm saying submit for approval a PR without a supplier and a price? I'm not saying saving. I'm saying submit for approval, peer approval without a price and without a supplier. Product by default will be there. The answer is no. The answer is no. You cannot do that because those are two mandatory fields. So at the end of the process, that means when you say that I will send this PR for approval, you need the product, you need the price, you need the supplier. All three of them. Correct? Exactly. Now when you say all three of them you need it, that means what? Here, source of supply is already known. Okay, here the source of supply is already known. So what we are doing? Ordering. Just a moment, guys. Just a moment. Okay, so we are ordering, uh, receiving, and for the products. That means what we are trying to say over here, that in downstream we are saying was the source of supply is already known. Source of supply is already known. So what we are doing? We are ordering it to the supplier. Supplier is sending the product back to us. And then what we are doing? We are paying for those products. Now, before you jump to somewhere else, see, I have used the term products. Excuse me. I have used the term products. Now, some of you will say, Manoj, what is happening? You are coughing like anything. I think all of you are reading news in your, Google News app or in the newspaper, so you know what is happening in Delhi. Huh? 49 degrees centigrade, right? So you are going outside in that extreme temperature, you're sweating, then coming back inside in a AC, what will happen? This thing will happen. Okay, same thing. Okay, now product. What does this product mean? Excuse me. Now here, since some of you are coming from a MM or SIM background, excuse me, you will say product means goods or materials. I will say in Ariba, the terminology is very, very different. But I have just used this thing to make all of you guys understand that products, when I'm referring to products in Ariba, it means both material and services. Both material and services. So if you are trying to find a base source of supply, it can be for a material, it can be for a service. So please don't fret over that source of supply. Can we find it for material? Yes, you can find it. For supply, of course you can do that. Otherwise, we cannot say that you are able to do the procurement. Now, here, let me replace this thing with the real terminology. Catalog items. If you go right now, see, I'm not trying to say that I am, very good, or uh, the other trainers are not very good. See, I don't want to do the comparison, but I am basically trying to make all of you guys understand that, see, the thing is like, whenever you are basically mentoring somebody, see, I'm not teaching all of you guys over here. I'm not a trainer. I never think of myself as a trainer. I think myself more of a mentor. Now when I say mentor, why I'm saying this thing, non-catalog item and catalog item? The first and foremost thing, if you have to understand the basics of upstream and downstream, forget about session 1, session 2 till the last session. I'm talking about for the demo session. You need to understand what is a catalog item, what is a non-catalog item. Majority of the guys who are working in Ariba, whenever I will basically meet with them, they will, the first thing which I will ask them is, okay, forget about implementation. Tell me what's the difference between a catalog item and a non-catalog item. They don't know. And immediately I will say, boss, forget about the project. Go back, understand the basics of Ariba. Why? Because if you don't know the difference between a catalog item versus non-catalog item, you won't understand what's the difference between upstream and downstream. And if you don't understand what is upstream and downstream, then within upstream you're doing sourcing and contracting, or in downstream you're doing a P2P process. It's worthless. Forget about doing integration stuff and all those things. You don't, it means like you won't be able to understand when I will do sourcing, when I will do PR. This is the question which I get the most from majority of the consultant who are trying to implement Ariba. So this is very, very important. Now, before we go any further, I will use plain English to make all of you guys understand what's the meaning of catalog item, or what's the meaning of non-catalog item. Okay, now just a moment. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. Now, what do we mean by new items? Now, new items means in a very specific way. If you try to define this new item, try to understand this point. So, this point which I'm trying to basically understand is, so this business have, let's say, never purchased a server. You know, you're going to implement Ariba for your client, and your client is basically saying, "Ki, boss, I have never purchased a server before." And I'm saying, okay, very good, not an issue, do it. Then they will say, "Ki, Are, I have not bought a server before, so it's a new item." Excuse me. Oh, yes, he has got a point. Then my client is saying, I want to buy a laptop. I will say, okay, very good. So, have you ever bought a laptop before? Yes, frequently we buy it. Oh, so you are saying you know you buy this thing frequently? Yes. So if you are buying it frequently, that means it's a pre-existing item. Of course, yes. Now, the procurement, will it be same for both of them? Of course, no. Of course, no. Why? Because whenever we are saying that uh, new items is there, source of supply is not known for new item. So what we have to do? We have to directly go to this point. So that means new items is nothing but non-catalog item. Okay. I will make this thing easier. So non-catalog item or new item are basically same. So this non-catalog item is nothing but your technical wordings in Ariba. Now some of you will say, hey Manoj, you are saying jargons over there. No, I'm not saying jargons. I'm making it easier. So that is why I said new item. But new item means actually non-catalog item where the source of supply is not known. So if the source of supply is not known, so what I will do? I will find the source of supply first. So that is why upstream or strategic sourcing solution is the starting point for non-catalog item. Pre-existing item. Now I think all of you can guess it. What does it stand for? Exactly, catalog items. Now when I say catalog items, excuse me, what does catalog item means? Catalog item means, you have already bought it before. So then immediately I will ask the client, hey, you have bought this laptop from whom you have bought? Oh, the HP supplier I have bought. What price? $2,000. That means for pre-existing products slash catalog items, source of supply is already known. Source of supply is already known. Then what you will do? If the source of supply is already known, you will basically say, no, Arey boss, I will do the ordering. Receive the products from the supplier, then pay the supplier. That's it. So that means downstream buying and invoicing. So whenever you are going for any implementation, any support, any project for Ariba, rollout, whatever may be the thing, this is the basic stuff. Why? Because when you will go, every client, majority of the client right now is having both upstream as well as downstream. They will ask you this question, boss, where I will start? In which scenario I will start with sourcing? In which scenario I will start with PR? And that is why I said, a little bit ago that, excuse me, that majority of the Ariba consultant who is coming into the project, excuse me, and I'm asking them what's the difference? Because if you don't know the difference, you won't be able to say that when you're going to use upstream or when you're going to use downstream. Correct? Exactly. This is my point. This is my point. So please remember this thing. So that means you can say non-catalog item. Oh, boss, upstream. That means it's a new item. The client has never bought it before. Upstream, boss, you go to upstream directly. Very good. Catalog item, that means pre-existing item, already there, right? Yes. Go to downstream. Why you will go to upstream? Solved. Now, this is what we call as mainstream procurement. I'm going a little bit advanced. What do you mean by mainstream procurement? 95% of procurement. Okay, what's the other 5% of the procurement? That is basically called as urgent procurement. So what happens in urgent procurement? So urgent procurement is, as you understand the word urgent, means what? It means that you have to urgently procure some products, whether material services for your organization. Why? Because there is a very acute or urgent need of it. Okay. So let's say, for example, uh, you need some Wi-Fi router immediately within 3 to 4 days. And let's say, for example, you have never bought a router before. So that means it's an example of non-catalog item. Exactly. Then within 3 4 days, can you do a sourcing? Oh, I will call some 4 5 suppliers and I will basically make them sit, and then I will say I want to buy a router. Give me your quotation. Within 3 4 days, that is possible? No. So what you will do? You will directly go to downstream. You will go to the PR screen, right? And there you will give a free text item. And what is the free text item? Wi-Fi router for urgent procurement. You will write. Manually, you will choose the supplier. Manually, you will choose the price. immediately trigger the approval. So what does it mean? So it means that approval will be different, of course, but all of you will say, Manoj, you're contradicting yourself. In downstream, you're always saying the source of supply should be known. It must be a pre-existing product. But here you're saying, I will write Wi-Fi router. I don't know what, who is the supplier, what is the price, but still I will manually put the supplier and I will manually put the price, and then I will basically publish the PR. Of course, this is why it is called as urgent procurement. So that is why whenever you go to a project, remember, first and foremost thing, when you're designing a solution, remember, you have to divide the solution. 95% procurement, that is the mainstream procurement, and here the procurement policy of the client will be implemented. That means non-catalog item, upstream, catalog item, downstream. Oh yes, Manoj, correct. Now 5% of the time, whatever we have decided over here, this will fail. Why? Because that is urgent procurement. We don't have time for it. Manually, we will enter supply, manually, we will enter price. Approval also will be done by vice president, done. But remember, that will happen 5% of the time. Tomorrow, your client, some end user is coming to you and they're saying, hey, Manoj, I will need 500 laptop. Why? Because this whole year in 2022, 500 new joinees are going to join our organization, and for them we are going to give this laptop. Then I said, immediately it will happen. No, no, no. It will take at least 3-4 months from now. But we will need it during the September October period. That means September to December. Then I said, this is not urgent procurement. Why? Because if every end user is trying to enter the supplier on their own and the price on their own, what will happen? The procurement will never be efficient. And if the procurement is never efficient, what will happen? This kind of issue will happen. Plain and simple. Oh, so keep this thing in your mind. So that is what I am basically making you understand over here. That is mainstream procurement. 95% of the time that will hold. But urgent procurement is also there 5% of the time. Why? Because some of you will say, Manoj, non-catalog item I can basically create it in PR. That means in downstream. ये तो आपने नहीं सीखा. Oh, sorry. You have not basically taught us this thing, because that is a urgent procurement, and you cannot design a solution for that. Why? Because that is a part of standard Ariba. Majority of the Ariba consultant don't understand. They will say to their client, "Oh, you can directly go to PR, create a non-catalog item, add it, done." What's the meaning of it? Then everything your client is, your end user is buying, they are manually doing the process. What's the meaning of loading catalog items? We will load millions of catalog items into Ariba system, and the client will say, "Yeah, what do you think? Are we foolish? We are giving all these millions of catalog items to the end user so that they can see it and they can buy it. But what is happening? My end user are basically saying, I will go to the free text item, give the description of the user ID, product, select the supplier manually, select the price manually. That should never happen. Excuse me. Okay, keep this thing in your mind. Now, let's not focus on this 5% urgent procurement. Focus on 95% of the mainstream procurement. Excuse me. Now, before I go any further, let me have a little bit of, water. Yeah, all this stuff and all those things, right? Hmm. Just a moment. Excuse me. Now, let us go inside this solution. Within upstream solution, we are having sourcing, then contracting, then supplier onboarding. Now, some of you guys will basically ask me one question over here, a very simple question. And what is that uh, simple question? That simple question is, Manoj, in other trainers demo, we have seen supplier onboarding is coming first. That means SLP. Then sourcing, then contracting is coming first. Yes. Why you are saying the order is different over here? Because this is how you have to implement Ariba Upstream. And I will tell you why. Because majority of the trainer, what is happening? See, whenever they will implement Ariba, SAP will say first we will implement SLP, then sourcing, then contracting. They will say, okay, we will do it like that. Then I will ask them some basic questions. Immediately they will say, no, I think we should begin with sourcing, then contracting, then supplier onboarding. So I will basically make you explain. But before that, let us understand what is first sourcing. Now, sourcing is nothing but to find the base source of supply over here. Excuse me. Just like for example, excuse me. Uh, Let us suppose, forget about companies. Think of yourself. Assume that you have never buy a smartphone before. Then you will say, Manoj, it cannot be there. Then I say, assume yourself that you have never bought a smartphone. So now let's say you are having 50,000 INR and you are going to buy a phone, smartphone, of course. What you will do? So you will go to a showroom, right? Once you go to the showroom, just a moment, just a moment. Yeah. So as I was basically saying to all of you guys that in sourcing, what we are trying to do, oh boss, this is a new item. Very good. What next? This is a new item. What we will do? We will call different formulas. So in this example, which I was basically saying that you will need to buy a smartphone. For that, what the company, what you will do? You will go to multiple showrooms. Why? Because you need to understand about the different features of smartphone. Okay, what's the price? What's the discount? they are giving. And surely, you're not going into just into one showroom and you will be buying that phone on the spot. No, you will go to other showrooms, at least one or at least two. That means in total, you will go to at least 2 to 3 showrooms to basically get an idea. Okay, what's the average price? What's the feature? So once you understand that, then you will decide, oh, out of this 3 showroom, I think in mall showroom was much better. So I will go over there. Okay, so you have decided from which showroom you are going to buy. Same thing happens in sourcing. Here, the organization, the client will basically say, I want to buy, let's say, a laptop. So they will send a sourcing project to the different suppliers. How? By including all those suppliers in the sourcing project. And then adding that I need laptop 50 quantities. Then the different suppliers will basically give their quotations. Once the quotation is given, submitted, what will happen? The end users will basically compare the quotation and decide, oh, which one is the best. When they will identify, oh, this supplier is the best, immediately they will choose it. And what will happen? Immediately, the awarding will happen and the sourcing project will get completed. So this is sourcing. Now, the issues come in sourcing is both of these events will come into the picture in sourcing. Means RFI and RFP. So what does this thing means? Request for information and request for proposal. So request for information and request for proposal means is what? That is the first round of showroom hopping which you will do, that is RFI. You will go to the 3 different showrooms and you will ask about the smartphone. Hey boss, explain me. And saying that you are new to smartphones, you will never say tell me the price first. You will say, okay, explain me what are the explain what are the things we should basically understand about smartphone. If we can't explain this thing or if we can't understand this thing, there will be a lot of issues. Okay, okay, very good. Now, let us try to understand certain other things. And what's that thing? That is, you are only, excuse me, you are just asking about the technical parameters of the smartphone. Same thing in RFI. In RFI, what you will happen, you will say, boss, don't want to talk about the price. For the non-catalog item, what I am going to do? I'm going to basically talk about what? I'm going to basically talk about the parameters, the quality parameters, the technical parameters. And supplier will also respond back to me with the technical or quality parameters only. No price parameter will come into the picture. Very good. Then where the price will come into the picture, Manoj? RFP, request for proposal. Here you will ask the supplier, okay, boss, tell me what's the price. Now, Majority of the Ariba consultant, they will basically think RFI, RFP, oh, this looks good. There's a clear segregation. There's a clear segregation. In reality, in tomorrow's session, you will understand that majority of the client where you will go, they will come up with a unique business process. They will say that RFI takes almost like 1 month to complete. RFP is taking another 1.5 months to getting, it's to get completed. So for the non-catalog item, if I'm going to do the sourcing process, within the sourcing process, RFI and RFP I am doing, 2.5 to 3 months is spent. So that means for this sourcing project process only, it's taking 3 months. What kind of solution you're giving? Huh? Same, like, this is a big issue. Then how will you decide the solution? This is the question. So that is why I said to all of you guys at the beginning of the session that this kind of question will be asked, this kind of problem will be shared with you. How are you going to give the solution? We'll understand about this thing in tomorrow's session. Why? Because in tomorrow's session, we will begin our session 1 and we will begin with sourcing. Now, some of you will basically say to me, Are Manoj, there is one more auction. What we will do in auction? In auction, we will basically call the different suppliers. They have given their quotation already. Now we are saying to the suppliers, Are boss, you reduce your quotation. That means reduce your price. Whoever give me the lowest price, I will basically award it. Now, as I said, the procurement ecosystem, what we have basically seen from majority of the client is they will rarely use auction, but some of them will use it. And those are exceptional scenarios. Why? Because if you go and ask any client, the RFI, RFP auction, then they will say, hold on for a moment. RFI will basically take 1 month. RFP will take 1 month or 1.5 months. 2.5 months gone. And in auction, that will also take 1 month. 3.5 months gone. Is this a joke? How many sourcing projects we will create in a year? 200, 300. For a big organization, this can go to 500 also, or maybe 1,000. So how many end user I have to put in the sourcing department? And then we have having contract, PRPU and all those things. That is impossible. Excuse me. So, excuse me, you will ask the client. Then when you will go for auction? First and foremost thing, majority of the client will say, in this moment, we don't need auction. But there are certain contradictions. What is the contradiction? Some client will say, yes, we will use it. Very, very rarely, but still we will use it. When? Suppose, suppose previous year, we wanted to buy a laptop. The average price of the laptop was $2,000. Very good. This year I am trying to buy a laptop. Now what is happening is like every laptop supplier, they have raised the price to 3,500 USD. For the same spec, previous year it was 2000 USD average price. This year for the same spec, the average price is 3,500 USD. Now that's a steep increase. Now here the client will basically say, boss, 3,500. I think every one of you have increased the price. Reduce now. Reduce a little bit. Okay. Don't, ask for 3,500, maybe 3,200, maybe 3,100, and we will give the sourcing to that particular supplier. So that is the main point of requirement. So all of you should keep this thing in your mind. See, that is why I said that I am not to teach here everything about Ariba. Why? I'm not going to teach you 100% Ariba. Why? Because if I'm going to teach you 100% Ariba, that will become theoretical Ariba. As I said, urgent procurement. Now, urgent procurement, nobody will ask you to customize the solution. No client will basically ask you to configure the solution. Why? Because that is part of the standard what? Process. Your main focus should be on the 95% of the mainstream process. Why? Because here the process will be customized. And here you have to design the solution and then you have to configure the solution. So that is why I left out auction intentionally. Okay? Keep this in your mind. Now, once you have done the sourcing, very good, Manoj, we have done the sourcing. What next? What next? The next thing is the contract. Now, what do you mean by the contract? Oh, you have identified a base supplier. This base supplier is going to give you the laptop at 3100 USD. Very good. So how many laptop you need? 500 laptop. Okay, during the time period from September to December 2022. Now, when you are going to order for that laptop and you will say to the supplier, boss, send me 100 laptop on September 2022. That supplier will basically say, boss, supply price, price has the laptop price has increased. I cannot give you at 32 or 3100 USD. You need to give me 3500 USD. Huh? What is this? Are you joking with me? Then the supplier will basically say that, see, we have done a sourcing project, but where legally we have agreed that we will buy this particular, I will sell this laptop for 3100 USD and not for 3500 USD. So that is where contract comes into the picture. So it's a legal agreement between buyer and supplier. Based on what? Now this is also important. Very, very important. Excuse me. Whenever I see contract, excuse me, majority of the Ariba consultant will say legal agreement between buyer and supplier. What? Why the legal agreement is happening? Oh, Manoj, it's for procurement. Out of thin air? Magician? We are not magician. First, the sourcing is happening, and at the end process of sourcing, what we are doing, we are awarding to a particular supplier. When we are awarding to that supplier, there are certain terms and conditions like, okay, this is the price, 1000 laptop. Third is September 2022 to December 2022. I'm just giving some example. There can be a lot of example, lot of info, but these were the three main information. So where we are getting this information? From the sourcing project, and we are bringing this information into contract. That means what? That once we do the sourcing project, from there we have to come to contract. Okay, exactly. Now this is a very, very important observation. In standard Ariba, without doing a sourcing project also we can do contract. But when you will go for implementation of Ariba, you will see that 95% mainstream project sourcing project is happening first. After the awarding, from there we are creating a contract linked with each other. Very, very important. So you should keep this thing in your mind. Now, when I say contract, within the contract in Ariba, it's totally different. Okay, it's totally different from or SRM what you have seen before. So there will be two main activity. What's that? Excuse me. Contract authoring. Now, contract authoring, contract task completion. What is it? So in Ariba, we don't work with screen fields in contract. Oh, that means in ECC or in SRM, that means and SRM, we capture all this data within the screen field only, right? But in Ariba, how do we capture this data? We capture this data in a Word file, in a Excel file, in Ariba. And this will be automatically generated from the sourcing project and it will be created in contract. So that means there are certain activities which we have to perform on that document, Word file and Excel file within the contract. That is called as contract authoring. What are those steps? Of course, we will understand these things in our contract session. But you should know first we have to do the contract authoring. Now, once the contract authoring has been done, the next is task completion. So you will see that in contract, Ariba contract specifically, there are task section. And within the task section, there will be multiple tasks which you have to complete. Then only the contract will get published. Otherwise, it will not be published. So that is why it's very, very important that all of you guys understand this process. Now, another thing which majority of the Ariba consultant, whenever they go in a project, they don't understand is right now. If you go for Ariba implementation, your client will always say, "Excuse me, what's that? Excuse me." That implement contract. But contract means contract generally comes in two flavor, DFS and ECA. So whenever you will go and speak with SAP, SAP will always say ECA boss. You are going to do implementation for your client. Contract should always be ECA. Okay. So what is ECA and what is this DFS? It's a old technology. Now these are basically technologies based on which the contract authoring will happen. Now SAP always says to their client, use ECA. Now, what's the impact? The impact is, of course, the process will be easier if you use ECA. Another thing is there, the configuration. In upstream, when you are working, you will see for sourcing, for contracting, you will have template configuration. There you will basically design the approval workflow, task configuration, business rule configuration, all those things you can do it within the template. So remember, DFS contract will have one type of template, ECA contract will have another type of template. Now whenever majority of the trainers are basically showing contracts, they will also not understand that whether they are understanding the DFS one or ECA one. Why? because as I said, DFS is not compatible with ECA, and when you're going for a project, ECA will always come into the picture. Right now, no DFS. So that means you have to make sure that you are learning the ECA contract, and whenever you are learning the contract template configuration also, that should be ECA template. So whenever you will go to a project, what will happen? You know this will be implemented, and you have worked on this thing only. Okay, so keep this thing in your mind. Now, desktop file syncing, please don't learn it. Why? Because if you learn that thing in your project, ECA contract will be used. So that will be a wastage of your time. And in our session, the process flow session, what will happen? We will always understand the ECA contracts. Similarly, in our contract template configuration, we will understand the ECA contract template configuration only. Okay. Now, very good. Supplier onboarding. Now, I think all of you guys are waiting for me to answer that why is supplier onboarding, Manoj, at the end of upstream. That will come after some moment. But before that, let us try to understand what is supplier onboarding. Now, before going further, let's talk about the URL. Website. Ariba can be what? Now, there is two UI. One is Ariba buyer UI. Acha. So all of you will now say, Manoj, these two are different URLs, and I will say, of course, they are different URL. They are different URLs. All of you should be very, very clear on this part. Okay, very good. Now, this will be accessed by buyers only. Ariba network is accessed by supplier only. That means in Ariba buyer, no supplier can log in. Similarly, in Ariba network, what will happen? Supplier will be basically be logging in. Okay. Now, why I am saying all this thing during the supplier onboarding? Because, excuse me, when you are saying supplier onboarding in MM and in SRM, excuse me, what you are doing? You're just onboarding in the system from the buyer side, done. Done, no? But here you will say, okay, Manoj, so in Ariba buyer, we will create the supplier. See, sourcing, contracting, everything is happening in Ariba buyer. Huh. Some small Ariba network will come into the picture from the supplier side. That we will show you in our individual sessions. But majorly, the starting point is Ariba buyer. Very good. Now, supplier onboarding, the starting point should be Ariba buyer, but it should also involve Ariba network. Why? Because the supplier must create their user account in Ariba network. So that is why supplier onboarding is a multiple level thing. So that means you will have supplier request process, supplier registration process, and then you will have supplier qualification process. What we do in supply request, here we will create the supply in Ariba buyer with some basic information. Then what we will do, we will basically invite the supplier. We will basically start the invitation process for the supplier in Ariba buyer. Then what will happen, once the invitation process is started, a email will be sent to the supplier in their email inbox. Once the supplier receives that email, over there they will receive a link within the email. Click on the link. What will happen? Ariba network will open. There they will create their user ID password. What will happen? Everything will be proper. Okay. So once they create an account in Ariba network, it's done. Supplier registration is completed. Now all of you will say, okay, what does supplier qualification does? Then I will say supplier qualification. Supplier qualification is basically based on, qualifying a supplier based on a region and a commodity code. But it has a very hidden meaning. And once I basically make you understand that hidden meaning, then you will understand that upstream solution and downstream solution is not only solution but something else. And the second thing is why I am saying supplier onboarding should be done after the sourcing and contracting. Okay, so we will understand that particular thing, guys, not an issue. But what we will do right now is basically we are going to basically take a break. Okay, this break will be for 10 minutes over there. Why? Because the thing is like, when I will come back after this break for 10 minutes, after 10 minutes, you will be, all of you will be basically be thinking about something else. Why? Because I am going to surprise all of you guys by giving some more info, which I should have given at the beginning only, beginning of the session. But if I would have given that thing in the beginning, what would have happened is like you would not have been able to appreciate what I was trying to say. You would not understand. Oh, just for the example, oh, theoretical meaning. It would appear like a theoretical meaning. But I want all of you guys who are present in our demo, that not only demo, in every session, whatever I am saying, you should understand that thing. That is why I held on this topic for a little bit. But once we come back from the break, then I'm going to basically make you explain that thing. Okay. So, Pallavi, let's take a break for 10 minutes over there, and then we will basically continue with our session after this break. And earnest request to all of you guys over there, please don't think that our session has ended. No, our session has not ended. It's continuing. Just we are going to take a break for 10 minutes. So, if you want to have some cold drinks, or if you want to drink some fruit juice over there, or iced coffee or iced tea, just don't go out of your home. Within your home only you have it. Okay, and we are going to once again reconvene at 9:02 a.m. IST, because right now it's 8:52 a.m. IST. 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes, we are going to basically come and meet. Okay. So please don't log off from this particular meeting or training over there. Keep on over there. Just wait for 10 minutes, have some refreshment, and we are going to continue with our session after 10 minutes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So let's just wait for 10 minutes. Thank you. Hello, Pallavi. Am I audible to you?
Yes, Manoj.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the confirmation over here. Guys, I think we will basically uh, continue with our session over here. So let us continue. Now, before we go anywhere else, try to understand in MM, in SRM, whenever you will go, you will ask any SAP guy or any technical guy how many databases are there. They will basically say only one database is there. Very good, not an issue. Let's come to Ariba. Excuse me. Now, how many databases are there in Ariba? If you ask this question, possibly you won't get an answer. Why? Why is that so? Because as I said, this is on cloud. You will never see a Ariba technical position. You will always see Ariba functional position. Then why Ariba is having a functional position? Because application server is there, and within the application server, Ariba is also installed. But those are maintained by Ariba itself, not by the client. So that means if you go and ask any Ariba employee who is working on the engineering department, because this engineering department of Ariba, they handle all the database related stuff of Ariba. Now you will not directly meet them or work with them, but when you work for a long time with Ariba, you do make some friends. I do have some friends, and from them I came to know that Ariba Upstream solution, they will have a separate database. Very good. So what's the issue? The issue is once you come to downstream solution, downstream solution will also have a separate database. Okay, okay, Manoj, what's the issue? Upstream database is different, downstream database is different. So think about it. Supplier onboarding is happening in upstream database. So the supplier is getting created in Ariba upstream. Now come to downstream. PR is there. Supplier is not there in downstream. How will you create a PR? You can't create a PR because if supplier is not there in downstream, how will you basically select a supplier? Majority of this Ariba consultant, whenever I will ask this question, they will say, okay, let's implement SLP. First thing. Then I will, or supply onboarding. Then I will say, okay, hold on. Supplier onboarding or SLP is part of upstream solution. It's a separate database. How will you bring this supplier down to downstream? Why? Because downstream is also having a separate database. And if you don't bring this supplier to downstream, what will happen? You can't create a PR. Then you will say, oh, so here we have the supplier qualification. Once we qualify the supplier, this supplier will basically move from upstream database to downstream database. Okay. Are so Manoj, we can still do supplier onboarding at the top or SLP at the top of upstream solutions. Then why sourcing and contracting first, then supplier onboarding? Because remember, in any project of SAP Ariba, any project of SAP Ariba, I'm not saying one or two, I'm saying all the SAP Ariba projects, you will always have more supplier in upstream, less supplier in downstream. I'm giving an example. You have called 10 supplier in a sourcing project. Very good. You have awarded to how many suppliers? You will say one. So this one supplier should be qualified and this one supplier should be brought into downstream. Why? Because from business process point of view, hey, I am not doing business with the other nine supplier. Why I will bring them to downstream? Why? Because if I bring those other nine suppliers to downstream, what will happen is like we are never going to do business with them until unless they win the sourcing project and we sign a contract with them. And as I said, if you don't sign a contract before doing the procurement, what will happen? Boss, why I will give you the product? You have to pay higher. This is the difference between theoretical Ariba and practical Ariba. The guy who is basically understanding theoretical Ariba, or the guy who is training you on theoretical Ariba, they will say supply onboarding at the top point. But until and unless you award a supplier in a sourcing project, sign a contract with it, you cannot do the supplier qualification for that supplier. So that means supplier request, supplier registration can be done anytime. Supplier qualification can only be done once the supplier is awarded in the sourcing project and a contract has been signed against it. Then we can do the supplier qualification. Exactly. Then the supplier will be moved into downstream. Keep this thing in your mind. Very good. Now, dotted line so that all of you guys understand. Acha, upstream solution means one database, downstream solution means another database. Okay. Excuse me. Here, what we will do? P2P, PR, purchase execution. I will create first. PR approval, then PO will be created. This PO will be sent to the supplier. Supplier will basically check it and do the PO confirmation. Now again, PO confirmation, it's not mandatory, it's optional. Similarly, ASN, advanced shipping notification, again it is not mandatory, it's optional. What is mandatory is GR/ACS. Okay? After that, invoice. Invoice will be created by the supplier and it will be sent back. After that, IR. What does IR stands for? Invoice reconciliation. We need to have the invoice reconciliation. Without that, we cannot do it. What happens in invoice reconciliation? Two-way check or three-way check will happen. Two-way check means PO and GR, PO and invoice will be checked. Three-way check means PO, GR, invoice will be checked. After that, everything is okay. What next? Payment. Payment will happen. Very good. But now all of you will say, Are Manoj, this is the P2P process which you said. Then I will say, yes. But apart from that, you also talked about the H2P process, source to pay process. Not at the rate, sorry. What happens in source to pay process? Sourcing project contract. But once again, sourcing project contract is in another database. So how I will bring this contract down to this database? Again, huh? Yes, this is a very important thing. So that is where Ariba has designed a very good solution. And what is that solution? That solution is contract compliance. What does it do? Replicates the contract from upstream to downstream. Now, all of you must be thinking, hey, Manoj, it falls. We are, getting an idea about Ariba. Yes, but understand this point because this is what I have always focused on one thing. And what focusing is Ariba considering that contract compliance is part of upstream. Some of them will say contract compliance is part of downstream. Now, I don't need to basically tell all of you guys over there who is correct, who is wrong, right? I don't have to tell you. You can only understand that, boss, how come contract compliance can only be a part of upstream or only a part of downstream? Why? Because it belongs to both of them. Why? It is replicating the contracts from upstream to downstream. It cannot just be a single part of upstream only or downstream only. It is part of both upstream as well as downstream. See, this knowledge, it looks very trivial in nature, but this can cause enough issue in your project. So keep this thing in your mind. Now, what happens is here we will have the contract, not directly as a contract, but as a catalog item. And this one is non-contract, huh? Manoj, what is this? Non-contract catalog item. Now, at the starting of the session, okay, at the starting of the session, Manoj, you were basically saying to us catalog item and non-catalog item. Now you are saying catalog item is also going to be divided. I say yes, in non-contract catalog items and contract catalog items. So now all of you guys can understand one thing. And what is that? That is, in P2P, we will have non-contract catalog items. In S2P process, source to pay process, we will always have contract catalog item. We cannot have non-contract catalog item. Generally, when I go to a project, I will ask, I'm not talking about some 1 year experience guy. I'm talking about 4 year, 5 year experience guys. I will basically ask them how many type of catalog items are there. They will say static and punch out. Then I will say that is the next level. There will be multiple levels, right? The first level of difference is always contract catalog item, non-contract catalog item. Now within the non-contract catalog item, you can have static catalog item and punch out catalog item. That we will understand in our catalog session. But you should know the first level of difference. Non-contract catalog item, contract catalog item. Why? Because non-contract catalog item means the result is procure to pay process. On the other hand, if you know that this is a contract catalog items, result is source to pay. Very simple. Now, now, all of you will be thinking, hey Manoj, these are the things, you know, uh, which if we would have understood earlier, we would not have, would not have appreciated it, or we would not have understood its impact. That is why I held on this thing till now. Second thing, whenever this is how the downstream will flow. Now, once this ends, I will see that whenever I will talk about this thing, integration, majority of the participants will start questioning me. Oh, CI9 or CIG? Okay, what I have to do? Okay, what steps you will do in configuration? Then I will say, hold on, hold on. Let's say you're taking a flight. You're taking a flight from Delhi to Mumbai. or from Delhi to Bangalore or Delhi to Hyderabad. Okay, will you go to the airlines and you will ask that, okay, uh, what kind of plane you are having? Is it a Boeing or a Airbus? Second question is, within the Boeing, I have heard, 737-200 is much better than 737-100. So, are you going to give the 737-200? Now, I have also heard within the 737-200 there is another variant, XL. It's much better plane. Are you going to give that in my flight? Then they will immediately say, we don't know. Why? Because what would be the plane that you will know when you are going to board it, not before that. So, what I'm trying to basically tell all of you guys over here is, we are functional consultant. We are not technical consultant. So our role is to design the integration scenario. Okay, which scenario? H2B, P2B, these are the integration scenario. These are the integration scenario. Now, here, let's say for example, you are saying this is H2P. Manoj, what integration you will do? So I will say, at least, let's start with payment. Payment, can we do it in Ariba? Yes, I can do it. Now, payment, can I do it in MM? That means in ERP over there. Can we do it? Now, this is a question which we should basically always think about it. Now, the first and foremost thing which we need to understand over here is, yes, payment can be done in ERP because the integration will happen between ERP and Ariba. It can be done in ERP, it can be done in Ariba. Very good. Then what's the issue? The issue is, payment means what? Payment to the supplier, but easier process stopping at just paying to the supplier. Majority of the Ariba consultant will say yes. When I am paying to the supplier, my process is getting end. Your client will disagree with you. They will say, "Arey boss, wait. You are paying to the supplier, very good. So tomorrow, let's say all of you are earning salary. You won't keep a track that how much you are spending each month. Where? If you don't keep a track, somehow, let's say for example, you are earning 20 lakhs INR, and at the end of the financial year, you are seeing just you are left with 40,000 rupees in your bank account. Then you will be thinking, Are, I have earned so much amount of money, where the money went? I am only left with 40,000 INR. Why is that? So from next financial year onward, whatever you are spending, you will basically note it down. Now, same thing happened with business. Business always have to note everything down. Why? Because that's a legal compliance issue. So they have to maintain the account book. And every financial year, end of financial year, they have to close it. Then only the new financial year will begin and a new account book will begin. That can only begin when the old account book gets closed properly. Whenever you're doing a payment to the supplier, you don't capture this information in the account book, what will happen? You won't be able to close the account book at the end of the financial year. Now, of course, as a procurement consultant, I will say not my issue, but client will say it's an issue. So sit down with the finance consultant, resolve this issue. Ridiculous, ridiculous kind of solution I have heard. Hey boss, we are paying to the supplier, right? Yes. They will say to the finance consultant, note down all the transaction which is happening every day and then manually post it. Then they will say, then why we are using Ariba? Why we are using ERP then? I could have used Tally or other system. If I am using a SAP ERP and a very advanced software, SAP Ariba, I should be in a position to automate my process. So boss, you are paying to a supplier, very good, but post this information about the payment in the account book automatically, not manually. Now, as a integration consultant, as a functional consultant, you will ask this question: can we do that thing in Ariba? The answer is no. Why not? Because Ariba is as I said, software which is focused on procurement related activities, not finance related activities. Yes, you can say you can store the GL number, cost center, WBS element. Yes, this you can store, but you can't have the functionality of the account book. You can't do profit and loss accounting over there in Ariba because those are part of your finance module. Finance module is part of your ERP, not Ariba. So that is why whenever you will go to any project, you have to remember payment will always happen in ERP. Now, let me tell you the reason why. Because you're not only doing the payment, but you're also posting the info where this will happen only in ERP. So let's do the payment in ERP and I will call a developer and then I will basically ask the finance consultant, Are boss, if I want to do the posting in account book, what I need to do? Then they will say BT is there. Business transaction event is there. That is nothing but a function module. Call them, pass the data, it will automatically post. Then I will say, oh, developer, you sit, write this, whenever the payment is happening, the integration point is basically getting called, you basically post this information, enhance this, or write this just code. The above will write, done. So that is why whenever you will go to any project and the first and foremost thing in integration, what you're doing, you're building the integration scenario. Payment will always be based on ERP. Now, I have just given all of you guys a sample. You have to remember there are other integration events or points also. PO will be one of them, GR will be one of them, invoice will be one of them, IR will be one of them. So here, as a functional consultant or as an integration consultant, you have to decide in which system you will do it. That means what is the source system, what is the destination system. So in this case of payment what is happening? Payment is happening in ERP. That means source system for payment is ERP. Status update will happen and that status update you have to post where? In Ariba. So the destination system is Ariba. Same thing for PO, GR, invoice reconciliation, you have to do it. You have to design. Now, excuse me, think about it. Why there is a lot of failure in integration scenario building? If you can do the integration scenario building, excuse me, 70% of your work in integration is completed. 70% or maybe a little bit more, 75% also. Now, for example, notice this point which I'm trying to basically highlight. A PO which is based on the P2P scenario versus a PO which is belonging to the S2P scenario. How can you identify them? Why? Because P2P integration scenario is totally different from S2P integration scenario. They are different. Just like, for example, we are having a different culture over here in Gurgaon. But if I go to Gujarat, the integration, not integration, the culture will be different. Food habits will be different. Similarly, if I go to Northeast, the culture will be different. Food habits will be a little bit different. I'm not saying, yeah, we as a country is, we are, all are Indians, but within that also there will be small variation. Not huge, but small will be there. Same thing over here. P2P will be different integration scenario, S2P will be different integration scenario. The first question, the first issue which you will basically encounter is ki, are boss, this PO which is coming, I'm not understanding, does it belong to P2P or does it belong to S2P? How will you basically design the integration scenario for P2P and then S2P? See, these are the questions which you will face in your project. And I'm damn sure if you go to any SAP press book, any normal training where theoretical training is happening, they will not tell you this thing. Oh, they will, what they will do, they will show you the SPRO configuration. They will show you, oh, you have to go to the CIG and you have to create a endpoint, not endpoint, backend system, and then you have to do the mapping. Are boss, we have to determine first this PO which is coming, is it belonging to P2P process versus S2P process? Why? Do you think backend system creation where internal host name, internal port name, virtual host name, virtual port name, all these things will be there? Will you do it? No. How many of you have known this term? Because these are related to basis. These are related to basis. Similarly, if I ask you in ERP add-on, how many of you know what is the S-Trust transaction code? It's for loading the certificate. How many of you know SOA manager, where the web services needs to be activated? Huh? What is web services? Web services is called as enterprise services in SAP. Huh? What is web services? What is enterprise services? Yes, those things are activated from the SOA manager. You are not supposed to know it. Why? Because those are again basis consultants activity. We have to guide them. Arey boss, this is the web services. This is the shared services. Oh, or shared secret. Oh, they will do activate it. But as an integration consultant, as a functional consultant, you cannot tell the difference between a PO which is based out of P2P versus a PO which is based out of S2P. Input is wrong, output will always be wrong, no matter how much amount of processing you do. So that is what we are going to understand in our integration. Now, to give this answer, a very simple answer I'm going to give it, and all of you will be laughing when I will give that answer. Okay, so how will you understand whether the PO is from a P2P or H2P? The answer is non-contract catalog item. Whenever we will use this non-contract catalog item, the contract ID field will be empty. So you should tell to your technical people, "Arey, go inside the PO, check the contract ID field, empty." Yes, P2P. And on the other hand, if they find some value within the contract ID field, it is a contract catalog item. It's a S2P process. Oh, so much simple, Manoj. Yes. Why is it so much simple? Why? Because you can understand the difference between a non-contract catalog item and a contract catalog item. Non-contract catalog item will never have a contract ID. Contract catalog item will always have a contract ID. And through this thing, you can basically easily understand contract catalog item. Contract ID is present, contract catalog item, S2P process. No contract ID is present. That means non-contract catalog item, P2P process. Done. See, this is what we are going to learn in our sessions. All these issues I have faced in the project, same thing will happen to all of you guys when you will go into a project. See, that is why I said theoretical Ariba. If anybody can basically read a Ariba guidebook, do a rote memorization, prepare a PPT out of it, and show it in the system. Done. But that knowledge is not helpful to any of you guys. Why? Because when you will go into a project, this kind of issue will happen, and this kind of things will be asked. Now, some of you guys might say, "Hey, Manoj, this looks a little bit heavy." Yes. Why? Because I wanted to open all of your guys in today's session, so you can expect that from tomorrow. We are going to learn step by step, not so much tough thing over here, but in a simple way, we are going to learn it in a step by step manner. Okay. So in integration, what we are going to understand, we are going to focus in our integration scenario building. Then we are going to talk about master data load. Now, integration scenario building, of course, we are basically talking about master data as well as transactional data. So, Manoj, why master data loads over here? So, what happens in master data loads? So, we will manually load some master data into Ariba through the help of CSV file, comma separated value file. Why? Why? Kyun? Why? Integration is there, right? Automatically the master data from ERP will come into Ariba. Why? पागल कुत्ते ने काटा है. Bad dog has bitten me. That I'm saying, you are going to do it manually. The thing is like, when you say integration, the first and foremost thing is, just like for example, if you say, I want to go from Delhi to Hyderabad, a flight, very good, you can go. Why? Because airport was there. Now you say Delhi to moon or Delhi to Indian Ocean. So immediately the airlines will say, hey boss, in Indian Ocean we don't have a airport. In Delhi we are having, but Indian Ocean we don't have it. Want to go to Sri Lanka, you want to go to Thailand, you want to go to Bangalore, Hyderabad, Gujarat, anywhere. Airport must be there. Without airport, how will you go? Similarly, when you say integration will be done, we are assuming that all the master data, all the transactional data are existing in ERP and Ariba. That assumption is wrong, because there are certain master data in Ariba which exist in Ariba only, but that does not exist in ERP. Example, purchasing unit. Oh no, I'm not talking about purchasing organization. I'm not talking about purchasing group. They are different. I'm talking about purchasing unit. There is a very different concept in Ariba. This concept does not exist in ERP. Similarly, in Ariba, you have a commodity code. Now, some of you will say material group is there in ERP. Understand? In Ariba, the commodity code is always even SPSC specified commodity code. You will never use UNSPSC material group in ERP. So the format is different. You have to load this data into Ariba manually. So that is why master data loads. Small, very small thing. But these are the things which you should be very, very clear. If you're not clear, no books is going to help you. Excuse me. Very good. Then the configs. Excuse me. Then the configs. Basically, I'm not going to show you that how you have to go to SOA manager and how you have to activate a web service. Why? Because that is not your job. Oh, Manoj. Okay, good. Then what are you going to show? Then I'm going to show you, I have prepared a guidebook. All the integration configuration are basically shown over there with screenshot and detailed step-by-step instruction. So I'm going to use that guide which I have prepared to make all of you guys understand that in SOA manager, you have to remember 3-4 web services name. Within these web services, for activating them, you will need a shared secret. That means user ID password. Second thing is port. Third thing is certificate. These three things you have to give it to the basis consultant, and you have to tell them activate these four web services and give these four values which I'm giving you, and then activate the web services. Done. Load this certificate into the system. Done. Then basically events are there. Click on the events. So in this way, you can coordinate with the basis consultant. That coordination is meant, but what are the important things which you need to understand to help with that coordination? That is what we are going to understand in the configuration. Now, certain things we have to do it on our own. Basis consultant will not do. Let's say, for example, in ERP, you have to do the basic message build-up configuration. That means you're saying, oh, PO. PO is basically getting created where? PO is basically getting created in, let's say, for example, in Ariba. Ariba is a source system, and you're replicating it into ERP. Destination system is ERP. So there you have to basically say, oh, this is inbound PO. Oh, or it is outbound. Not an issue. So those configuration you have to do it. So that I will basically make you understand. Similarly, from the Ariba side, you have to, define endpoints and all those stuff. That also we are going to understand. Now I know all of you guys will basically ask me, "Arey Manoj, CIG क्या है? Cloud Integration Gateway." And CIG is one of the way. It's like a middleware on cloud through which the Ariba and ERP is getting integrated. Correct? So that we are basically understanding over here. And yes, we will also cover CIG. Now, there is another thing, reporting. Now, whenever I will say reporting, all of the participant will jump out. Hey, Manoj, reporting. Reporting means we have to call a technical guy. Then, sorry to say, all of you guys, in Ariba, you don't have a what you can say reporting in a very different way. In Ariba, you don't need technical consultant. As a functional consultant, only you can customize as well as create a new report. But 99.9% of the time, Ariba provides huge number of reports, pre-packaged reports. Now those are standard reports. Majority of your client will say, okay, I need some custom logic and all those things. So what you will do is like you will find your report over there. Only thing is you need to customize the logic, customize the field, customize the output. That can also be done in Ariba without writing a single code. That we are going to show you. Customizing the report. Very good. Then automating. Now, what is this called as automating? Now, all of you will say automating means schedule background runs. Then I will say wrong. That is scheduling. That means in the background it will run. Automating means what? Automating means your end user, they are not going to excuse me, they are not going to basically log in into the system to check the output. Excuse me. So so I will schedule the report to run in the background, and after it's successful running, what will happen? The report output will be generated in an Excel attachment or PDF attachment, and that will be basically be added in an email, and this automatic email will be sent to the end user or the higher management who want to see the report output without logging into the Ariba screen. Yes, that can also be done. So that is called as automating. Very few people know about it, and your client is going to absolutely love it. So that is also what we are going to see. Now, some of you will say, Are Manoj, you have basically talked about the process. What about the configuration? Then, as I said, majority of the time, you have to understand in upstream, everything is based on template. So we are going to basically see how to create a custom template, how to configure the business rules. Guys, just give me 2 3 minutes over there. Just give me 2 3 minutes. Yeah, thank you. Somebody came to our home. Just give me 2 3 minutes. Hello. Pallavi, am I audible to you?
Yes, Manoj.
Yeah, yeah. Apologies, guys. Apologies to all of you. Actually, some guys came into our home over there. So there were some issues over there, so I was basically having a discussion with them. It was some urgent issue, so that is why it took not only 2 3 minutes, it took somewhere around 10 11 minutes 15 minutes. So apologies for that. This generally does not happen, but this was a little bit urgent thing, important thing, so that is why I was having a talk with them. Generally this does not happen. When I say 2 3 minutes, it will be 2 3 minutes only. Sometimes exception happens. So yeah, let's carry on. Now, as I was basically discussing that, excuse me, the business rules are there. Now when the business custom template and business rules are there, apart from custom template and business rules, what else is there? Just a moment. Approval configs. Approval configs also we are going to see. Then basically we are also going to see that we are creating n number of multiple templates, n number of multiple templates, 20 30 40 50 60. Now if you show 40 templates, custom templates to your end user will think, what is happening, what is happening, it does not make any sense. 40 templates, which one I will see or use, does not make sense. Then how to control it, how to control the visibility, where to control the visibility, all of these things should be known. So that also we are going to understand. Now coming back to downstream, here we are basically going to talk about catalogs loading. Of course we have to load catalog, millions of catalog items. How we will load it? With the help of zip file. Excuse me. How to load it? Excuse me. How will you load millions of catalog items? Where you will load it? Which file? See, file format is basically how the supplier is going to give us this data. But how you will do it? You have to think about all those things that we are going to learn. Plus, we are also going to see catalog config. Then approval config. Approval config. Yes, in upstream it was happening in template. In downstream, since it's a different thing, approval configuration will be different. And here also we are going to basically going to talk about static plus dynamic. Okay. Now all of you will say, okay, static, approval we understand, Manoj. What is this dynamic approval? Where the dynamic approval comes into the picture? Now, for example, I'm talking about one level only. I'm not talking about 4 5 level. In level one, if the user is belonging from Delhi, Manoj will approve. If the user is belonging from Mumbai, Sana will approve. If the user is belonging from Hyderabad, then Pallavi will approve. Level one only. Are Manoj, how come in level one there can be three approver? Actually, there is not three approver. I'm saying if user is Delhi, level one approver is Manoj. If user is belonging from Mumbai, approval level one approver is Sana. If user is belonging from Hyderabad, level one approver is Pallavi. This is a dynamic approval workflow. And this kind of approval workflow generally is asked for the implementation in the projects. How will you do it? I will show you that thing in our configuration sessions. Okay, so this is basically, guys, what you can say at a high level what we do in Ariba. Okay, but individually we are going to have a lot of sessions. Like for each sourcing, contracting, supply onboarding, P2P, S2P, lot of sessions will be there. It's like in total we will be having 12 sessions at least. barring today's session. Okay, so today was the demo session. After this, we will have 12 sessions each, one after another, every weekend, starting from tomorrow. So there we will understand in details about this thing. But please don't consider, अरे आज का session, like today's session is फालतू session, like why? Because it's free of cost. No, always remember, what I always believe in is like a demo session is to basically let all of you guys understand that what we are going to learn in our sessions, this whole batch, what we are going to learn, what we are going to learn, what we are going to uh, understand. Similarly, before you come to tomorrow's session, you should have a base, right? If I start with sourcing, oh, go to Ariba Buyer, go to Ariba Network, all of you would ask me, hey, why, why we are logging in Ariba Buyer? Where Ariba Network is coming into the picture, right? This kind of question will be there in your mind. So now Ariba Buyer means here the buyer will log in. So that is why we have to come in. Ariba Network means from a supplier point of view, we are seeing the process. Oh, very good. So that is why today's session is basically a base creation session. That means I have created a base. That means from tomorrow onwards, when we are going to have our full-fledged sessions, so in that session, excuse me, what will happen? In that session, you would be able to understand the basic stuff. Okay? Yeah. Now, we are going to take a, you know, 6 minutes or 7 minutes break in between. Why? Because as I was speaking during this whole session, and outside also when I have to take a break, I have to speak also over there. So in between, what will happen? I will have a hot cup of tea and then a little bit of water so that I get some relief in my, yeah, I should get some relief in my what you can say, throat over there, and then I will come and answer your queries because I know some of you will be having your queries over there. So let's just wait for 6 7 minutes, and after that we will be taking your queries. So Pallavi, please be ready. Now it is 10:05 a.m. IST, so we will meet at 10:12 IST. At that point of time we will have the question answer session, and in between, uh, right now please don't log off, guys. Just wait for 7 minutes over there, then we are going to basically take your queries. Yeah, thank you. Hello, Pallavi, am I audible to you?
Yeah, Manoj.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for your confirmation over here. So, guys, whom of you are having any queries, just raise your hand and don't try to raise your hand physically. Why? Because I won't be able to see you. So, in the UI, there will be a small hand. I can just press it once. I would be able to see your hand, and then I will unmute you so that you can ask your query. Otherwise, again, mark it. It will become. So, please raise your hand. Yeah, Arjun, you are having any query? So, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi Manoj,
Yeah.
I
Hello.
have
Hello,
few
Arjun.
queries here. Yeah, can you
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
me?
please go ahead. Yeah, yeah, I'm able to
Okay,
perfectly hear you. Please go ahead.
okay. So could you please let us know what, the exact difference between technical and functional consultant from Ariba standpoint?
See, functional consultancy, the thing is like in Ariba, we only have functional consultant. Now, sometimes you might see a technical background over there. That means like technical Ariba consultant is required. Please don't go over there. Why? Because what they are basically saying is you have to work on Ariba on premise. Ariba on premise is a obsolete software, and for that you need to understand Java, CXML programming, and all those stuff. So which none of you should learn. Why? Because the thing is like it's not required. And the second thing is that software is obsolete. Why? Because whenever we are going to implement Ariba, it's always Ariba Cloud. And in Ariba Cloud, the technical things, that means change in source code or change in database fields, these are handled by SAP Ariba employees only. So if you want to work as a technical person in Ariba Cloud, so for that you have to join SAP Ariba, and that too in the engineering department. But remember, not as a functional but as a technical. That means there also you need to understand the Java code, write Java code, change Java code, and know CXML, how to create a CXML file, and how to do CXML coding. So if you don't intend to join that, my suggestion is keep learn functional Ariba consulting and then join as a service provider. That means as an implementation partner or a service partner over there.
Okay, okay. Thanks for, clarifying this. And even I do have, couple of questions here. So
Yeah,
can I
please go ahead.
ask?
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So will you explain and show us the endpoint configurations for guided buying and for B&I?
See, the thing is like endpoint configuration in guided buying or BNI, they are same, because endpoint configuration is nothing but a backend creation, right? So we are telling to Ariba that endpoint means this is the backend over there. So we will basically create a endpoint, and then we will basically give the URL, shared secret or certificate, all those things, right? So both of them are same. Guided buying is just a user interface. So yes, I'm going to basically show you how to create an endpoint over there and how to assign this endpoint to different web services.
Okay. Okay. So, next, related to CIG actually. So,
Yeah.
will you show all the CIG related configuration in SAP and its related custom field as well?
See, now
See, when I say
here,
custom
as I,
fields, obviously, yeah, it is not meant to particular things. Okay.
Mhm.
But the thing is, yeah. So, if something comes later, then we will not be sure, like, how to take it up and how to do that mapping, right? So, just a
Yeah,
basic understanding on that part as well.
yeah, basic understanding. Yeah. So here, see, the thing is like I cannot open the CIG of my system and show it to you. Why? Because the system which we are using over here for our demonstration as well as for all of your uses, that is a training system. That is not basically I'm taking it from some project, the development system, and giving it to you. And if I would have given that development access over there, what would happen is like there will be a lot of restriction. So that is why we have paid a huge amount of money to Ariba so that we can get a training system in Ariba Cloud. That's the first thing. Second thing, to avoid this kind of thing, what I have done is like, as I said, I have prepared a custom document with all the screenshots from the projects that, okay, what are the CIG related configuration like backend creation, then mapping creation over there, project creation over there. That's the first point for cloud connector. Second point is from the SPRO side, the CIG add-on integration is there, right? So there also, what are
Correct.
the steps which you have to do? So all those screenshot I have taken from the project, written down step by step, what are the things. So I will use that guide in the integration session once I made all of you guys understood this thing first. First, I will make sure that all of you guys know how to build up a integration scenario. Then in the configuration step, I'm going to open up the guidebook and show you everything and make you understand that how it is done step by step. And that guidebook will be shared with all of you guys so that when you go into a project, if you do, if you have forgotten our session, let's say for example, you're working in a project and integration you're handling after 1 year, maybe in 2023 May or June. At that point of time, you might forget my training sessions over there, but still you will have my session recordings, as well as this guidebook. So just go through the recordings and take this guidebook and directly go and work in your project. So it will be very, very easy. And remember, this guidebooks, this custom points, everything which we are maintaining over there, this will be shared in Google Drive to all of you guys. And the recordings of each
Okay.
session will be also shared in Google Drive, and that access will be for lifetime.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay.
Yeah,
And next question, when we start a new implementation, right?
yeah.
So how do we get to know, which are the part we should take care and which are the part Ariba product team will take care? And how do we
Okay.
start, a new implementation?
Okay, so in a implementation, always first and foremost thing, it's about requirement gathering phase, right? So before the
Correct.
requirement gathering phase, there will be kickoff. Within the kickoff, what will happen is like SAP will basically schedule a architectural meeting depending on the scope of the uh, Ariba implementation. That meeting can range from somewhere from 1 hour to even maybe 3 hours. Because if your client is saying Ariba upstream, Ariba downstream, and integration, three of these things they are
Hmm.
using, so that might move on to 3 hours. So in that thing, basically, SAP will basically underline what would be the activities which will be performed by Ariba shared services, and what are the activities which will be falling under us. So they will basically give you a chart. I think I am forgetting the chart name, where they will show this is the responsibility of the client, this is the responsibility of the implementation partner, this is the responsibility of SAP Ariba itself. So from there only you will be able to know it, that what is covered. And why I am saying this thing, because every client, whenever they will basically sign a contract with Ariba, that will be different. So in some client, what will happen is like, let's say for example, you're creating a template in test system, right? You have to move these templates, custom template, to production, right? Now this movement of configuration objects, in certain clients you have to do it, in certain clients you don't have to do it. Ariba shared services will take care of it. So that is why that I think risk or something chart will be there, depending on the contract which Ariba has shared, signed with the client. That particular uh, I think diagram, as well as in the meeting, they will basically clear what is in their scope, what will be in the client scope, what will be in the implementation partner scope.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So based on that, yeah, we can move forward, right?
Exactly,
And
but then again, after that meeting, same thing will happen, right? Prepare phase or explore phase, then basically we will
yes, yes.
basically sign this document, build phase, deploy phase, then go live, hypercare support, then normal support.
Correct. 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 And you did not talk about commerce automation. So is it a part of training session or how it will
See,
be?
first and foremost thing, this is a very good point. Commerce automation, we are going to talk in integration scenario building. That is why I said
Okay.
P2P direct, P2P indirect. See, the P2P process which we do in buying and invoicing, that means in downstream modules, the P2P which I have shown, that is basically indirect procurement. And commerce automation is nothing but the P2P direct procurement, where the integration is happening between ERP and Ariba network. Ariba buyer is not coming. Now, if I say this thing in our first demo session, lot of participants will be confused. Huh? What is this? Ariba buyer and ERP is the major integration point. Now you're saying this is, there is an exception. So that is why I did not touch upon these points, so that when we will go to the integration scenario session, all of you guys will know what is happening in upstream, what is happening in downstream, and now the integration is happening, so you're ready for the exception. That's why.
Okay, okay, got it. But it's a part of, training, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay,
That is
okay,
my
okay.
favorite part also. Why? Because lot of people basically ask me this question, client, hey, we know that direct procurement cannot be done in Ariba. Then I said, beg to disagree with you.
Yes, exactly. And what about the network rules, tolerance limits, and other configurations in the Ariba network? So will you show all those things?
No, we will not show you that thing, but we will
Okay,
basically give you a documentation regarding the transaction rules creation. So those are basically nothing but the transaction rules, right? Which we have to create over there. So we will be sharing one document with the transaction rules. Now, why we don't share that particular thing? Because the thing is like in majority of the project, when you will go, what I have seen is transaction rules is not within our hand. That means within the contract only, what Ariba does is like they will always say transaction rules should be done by the Ariba shared services. Whether it's commerce automation, whether it's SCC, whether it's the whole Ariba transaction rules and business application ID creation. That means the endpoint creation in Ariba network. That is not within the Ariba consultant's hand. You can't handle that. Huh? You can see that particular thing. So that is why we are not
but
covering
we
that
should
thing in
have a
our
fair
session.
idea to analyze it, right? Sorry to interrupt,
Exactly. So
Manoj,
that
but we
is,
should have.
yeah.
Yes,
Exactly. So that is why I'm saying that we will be providing you one document where everything is written about that, and you can also understand it by just reading it. The basic idea how to do it.
okay. Okay, so suppose if we get any doubt regarding that, at least will you walk us through the Ariba network? Like, no need to, configure anything, just theoretical explanation with the particular, fields and other things.
That we can do.
So,
See.
would it
The
be
thing
possible?
is like,
Okay,
remember, we are not into business. See, this is not a business which we are doing. Actually, this is
correct.
our passion. The thing is like I work in a big four organization over there. I think that as a solution architect, when you work in a big four, their salary will be very high over there. So I'm not doing this training just for the sake of money. I like mentoring people over there, and specifically in Ariba, what I have seen is like a lot of people when they come into Ariba, what happens is like they are having misconceptions over there. So that is what we wanted to do, so that I wanted to share my experience over there, so that people don't have misconception, they know what to do and where to do it.
Okay. And one more last question. And
Yeah,
you talked about, web services, right? So what does
yeah.
it mean? And uh, is it a SOAP or OData, or how that happens? Could you please give an idea?
Generally it is always so over there. That's the first thing. Second thing is O data will come into the picture when you are basically talking about uh, cloud services. That means you are basically trying to uh, uh, integrate Ariba with Fieldglass. Now that does not fall under the normal projects. That is advanced Ariba over there. So in that case, Ariba is a cloud solution. Fieldglass is a cloud solution. So there you will not use SOAP web services. You will use OData web services. Similarly, if you want to integrate Fieldglass with SuccessFactors or Ariba with SuccessFactors over there you need OData web services. But in normal integration, what we are doing over here we will always use SOAP web services. Now there is an exception. If you are not using an SAP ERP, you are using a non-SAP ERP. At that point of time, you might use CPI also, because their CPI might be required. So in that case, you can use OData web services also. But my suggestion is, when you are integrating Ariba with any ERP, use SOAP web services, because for SAP ERP, The standard things are SOAP web services. But for non-SAP, my suggestion is prefer to go with SOAP web services. If not, then no data. But then again, like here we have to consult with our non-SAP ERP consultant as well.
Okay.
That's the
So if
first
that
thing.
is the case, obviously,
And
SOA manager comes into picture, right?
yeah, of course. Now the thing is
So,
like
uh,
so a manager comes into the picture, but what is web service? Web service is nothing but think of it like you want to go from Delhi to Hyderabad, right? Delhi is your Ariba system, Hyderabad is your ERP system. How will you fly? Through a flight, right? Or through a plane. That plane is nothing but a web service. So this is a very high level understanding of web services, but there are a lot of things which are there. But on a high level, this is the meaning of web services. And the second thing is, yes, of course. So a manager will be there. You have to activate a web services. This is not only for Ariba to ERP integration, Ariba to any system integration. You have to basically go into web services, activate the web services. Without web services you cannot work. Why? Because nobody uses ITK right now. That's the first thing. Second thing
correct.
is, when you basically say web services activation, now here as a functional consultant, if you go into S4 or ECC, you will not have access to SOA manager, or even if you have the access, that would be read only. Why? Because these are given to the technical guys. Technical guys means the basis guys over there. So which web services to activate and what are the different informations like URLs, shared secrets, port, these things they will enter. But what we have to do is like we have to guide them that okay, go to the slash ARBA slash MI star. Then basically look for the web services over there. You will find the web services, those you have to activate by putting the data. So this is the coordination part with which we have to do with the basis guys. We don't have to do the configuration. They will do it, but we have to guide them.
Okay. So that is also part of this training, like, the fair idea, like
Yeah,
how
yeah, of
to
course,
guide the
of
best
course,
practice.
of course. That is what I said. Like that, how
Okay.
you're going to do
Okay.
the
Yes.
coordination with the basis guys. That we are going to explain you with the help of the integration guidebook, which we have created,
Okay.
not SAP's Manoj. You can say.
Okay. Okay. But what is the difference between, proxy server and then web services? Because we do have the proxy services, right?
No, proxy services we never use over there. Why? Because see, the thing is like when you are using Ariba over there, remember in ERP always follows a authentication of shared services. That means, sorry, shared secret, user ID and password. But Ariba has two-factor authentication. Shared secret will be there, plus certificate will be there. Now, if you are using proxies over there, what happens is like it's an individual choice. It's an individual choice, but that is not the best solution. Why? Because here the two-factor authentication does not work properly. So that means your client, when they will do a security audit, this will come out in red. So to avoid that particular thing, what when SAP has designed this solution, they always say use normal web services over there. So in that case, two-factor authentication will be checked not only from the Ariba side but also from ERP side as well. So that is why we use as a best practices web services.
Okay. Got it, Manoj. Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying these doubts.
Yeah, welcome, welcome Arjun.
That's all I have.
Just okay, yeah, yeah. Thanks, Arjun. Okay, just a moment. Manish, can you please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your query?
Hi Manoj, thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah,
First of all, welcome back, and I hope you are doing well now.
yeah. Actually, you can still hear my voice is a little bit different because of this cold
Yeah,
and
yeah,
cough, right?
I know everything. So I won't take much time. Just to add on what this previous person was, previous attendee was asking, just wanted to
Yeah,
understand. Just like in SAP ECC, we have something called IDOCs when we are moving a
yeah,
data from ECC to any non-ECC system, no SAP to
yeah.
non-SAP system. So, like if you are moving, if you are, want to transfer data from Ariba to ECC or ECC to, so do we have a IDOCs kind of thing in means how how it happens?
Very good
Means
question. Very good question, Manish.
yeah.
Now, this will happen. Let us suppose you went to China, huh? Or
Mhm.
forget about China, you are going to Japan. Now, if you go to Japan, what will happen is like there you will see your client and their people, they will always speak in Japanese. Some of
Correct,
them,
correct,
very few will be, speaking in English, but the other guys, they will speak in Japanese. Now
correct.
what is happening is like you are speaking in English or in Hindi, the other guy is speaking in Japanese. So what will happen is like you won't understand what that guy is saying, and that guy will not
Yeah,
understand what
agreed,
you are
agreed,
happening. So what
agreed,
you will
agreed.
do, you will have a translator in between.
Correct, correct,
Now
correct.
let us come to Ariba and ERP. Ariba only understands CXML for transactional data,
Hmm.
language
Hmm.
Japanese. Okay,
Hmm.
and now ERP only understand, or ECC only understand IDOC, because
Hmm.
IDOC is the language which ECC will understand for transactional data.
Hmm.
Mismatch. None
Correct.
of the other system will know about it. So in CI9, what will happen is like there will be a certain program which you have to schedule, which will do what? Which will basically convert the CXML to IDOC and IDOC to CXML. Now
Okay.
coming to CIG, CIG is a middleware, right? What is
Okay.
middleware? Middleware is nothing but a translator. What is the work of a translator? Converting this IDOC to CXML and CXML to IDOC. So that is
Okay.
basically their second work over there. So the only thing is CIG is a middleware, but on cloud. So this is where this translator comes into the picture. So yes, IDOC to CXML and CXML to IDOC has to be done.
Oh,
There is no other option. But the translator will do it. In CI9, there is certain reports which will do it. In CIG, this is basically the work of a middleware which will convert the data from CXML to IDOC or IDOC to CXML.
got it. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Manish. Any other queries?
No, no, thank you, thank you.
Okay, yeah, welcome, Manish. Just a moment. Sachin, can you just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your query?
Hello. Yeah, good morning, Manoj. Sachin
Yeah,
here.
yeah, Sachin.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Sachin. Yeah, I'm able to
All
hear
right.
you.
Thank you for your elaborative, demo session. This, first of all, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
welcome. Welcome.
Uh, yeah, my basic queries are, very basic queries, basically.
Yeah,
So during the training sessions,
yeah,
will you be teach us how to
yeah,
create, P2P, S2P, non-contract catalog items and contract catalog items, like that. So end to end, for an example. So from sourcing, I'm saying that like an end user, I
ah,
wish I would learn like an end user first, along with
yeah.
that configuration, along with that master data, along with that integration. So
Yeah, of
if you
course, of
understand,
course.
yeah.
See, yeah, I understood your question over here, Sachin. So yes,
Hmm.
we are going to basically do the things like that. So that is why if you see our sessions, generally what we will do is like first we will complete the sourcing process, then we will complete the contract process, and then within these sessions, I'm going to show you not only sourcing and contracting, but also the relationship of sourcing with that of contracting. Now, once that is done, then I am going to go into the template configuration. Why? Because if I don't make you understand what is sourcing, what is contracting, and what's the relationship between them in the process flow, when I go into the configuration, like you will not understand anything. Because if I, there are a lot of trainers who say configuration first, configuration आगे करते हैं, then process flow. That's a wrong process. Why? Because in the project we will capture the requirement of the client first. That means we are trying to build the process, we're designing the solution over there. Once we are having a clarity in the process, then only we will do the build phase. That means we will do the configuration, right? Same thing we do in the project. So let's say for example sourcing and contracting, we will understand that, we will also understand the impact between them. Okay, then we will go to the configuration, and there we will basically make you understand the different templates and how the template we are changing and how it is impacting the process. So in this way we are going to
Okay.
understand.
Okay. So to understand me, I mean, to my understanding, we will
Yeah,
first go through the various transactions. I would say transaction because I'm not aware of the Ariba terminology. But
Okay, not an issue.
just like an ERP, just like
Yeah,
an ERP, what we do
yeah,
ERP, like we create a PR, go for that
yeah.
particular transaction, then
Hmm.
create it, change it, display it, then go for PO or RFQ, or create it, change it, display it, print it, if we want to get a print out, or if you want to email it out, let's say, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
these are all end user transactions or end user training sort of. So that
yeah,
training will follow, right? Because if I don't understand those transactions in Ariba
yeah.
as end user is doing, I don't think I will
Excuse me.
be able to grasp the system. I mean, this is
Okay.
my viewpoint.
Now, Sachin, here a little bit difference will come into the picture. Yes, I'm going to show you the process, but not from a viewpoint of an end user, but from a viewpoint of a functional consultant. See, the difference for the end user is they will do a part of the process, but as a functional consultant, you have to understand that when you're following the process, let's say for example, in sourcing project, there will be an option. In tomorrow's session only you will understand. Quick project and full project is there. Quick project means what? Either RFI or RFP. Full project means what? RFI first, then RFP. That means you have to do both. Now here, I will basically explain in which scenario you have to use full project, in which scenario you have to use quick project over there. Why? Because as a functional consultant, if you cannot distinguish this thing, your client is going to ask you this question first when you're going to sit
Correct.
with your client for sourcing project over there. So that is why I said the process flow we are going to understand, but not from an end user perspective, but from a functional consultant perspective, so that when you go into a project, this type of question will come from the client to you, and you would be able, or you will be well equipped to give the answer to them.
Agree. Yes,
But
definitely. As I
I
said,
will
we
always,
will
as you have seen in today's demo, I haven't used technical jargons over there. I am not saying something bombastic word which none of you guys will understand. It was, you know, quite simple English over there. That means the level of understanding will be more. So that is what we do practice in each of our sessions. We tend to avoid technical stuff. We tend to avoid
okay.
certain things which are very technical in nature. We will make it simple, explain it to you. Once you understand that, then we will say, okay, this is the technical word for this, which you have understood over there. So that means, somebody from your client side say, oh, non-catalog item. Now you know what is a non-catalog item. But if I would not have explained you what is non-catalog item, I would have said, non-catalog item means what? An item which is new. That would be impossible for you to understand what is a new catalog item, non-catalog item. But now you can understand that non-catalog item means what? The source of supply is not present. It's not only a new product, but the source of supply is not present. So you can basically say to the client, okay, you're talking about those items for which the supplier is not known, the price is also not known. Why? Because you have never bought it before. Then client will say, yes, I'm talking about non-catalog item only. So this is the way of following through in each of the session. I will not just use what is non-catalog item, but I will also make you explain what is the impact of non-catalog item and where you're
Okay.
going to use it.
All right. So next question. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
that. So next question is that this curriculum will last long. I mean, how many sessions you will take approximately?
Uh, 12th session. Barring
Huh?
today's session, barring today's session. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So from tomorrow we will have session one. There will be 12 session of 3 hours each, at least 3 hours.
Okay. All right. And that if somebody, due to time constraint or something urgency, if somebody misses, then definitely this recording will be shared. Correct? As an
Definitely.
administration
Why?
process.
Because see,
Mhm.
the thing is, like I will tell you, uh, we started our this batch in 2017. Now there are still those guys who will be calling me and saying to me that Manoj, session हुआ था 2017 में, right? We have the training recordings with us right now. Whenever we are working in the project, we will go through your recordings and then we will go and work in the project. So these recordings are mandatory and important, and we will share it in a G Drive folder with all of you guys for the whole lifetime.
Okay. Whatever we are learning over here,
Yeah,
will it be, I mean, along with that, will be some kind of a questions, for a certification, I mean to say,
yeah,
Ariba certification, maybe it a P2P or maybe it's a sourcing, whatever.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that your kind support will be there, right?
Of course. So that is why I said in G Drive, there are a lot of things which we are going to share with all of you guys. Not only the documents which I have prepared. See, we are also going to share with you standard guidebooks, but I will suggest don't read it. Why? Because sourcing 500 pages, P2P 1200 pages. So if you read those things, you will see that the total standard books will be somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 pages. Even I am, unable to complete one of the standard guidebooks of Ariba till now. Why? Because it's full of technical jargons and it's theoretical in nature, but it's still there.
Mm,
Apart from that, what we will do, we will give you certification material. Now, what is certification
mm,
material? We will give you certification books which you have to read. We are also going to share with all of you guys the certification dumps which have previously came in the Ariba certification. And not 100%, but somewhere around 40 to 50% of the question which have appeared earlier in the certification will be reused in the certification, normal
mm.
certification exam. So if you practice with those questions, what will happen? Those questions, 40 to 50% chances are there, it will reappear once. So you can clear the certification very easily. But
Okay.
small condition. What is that condition? First, you have to understand each and every session of this whole batch.
Mm,
Once this batch gets completed, then you study for the certification, you can easily clear it. But if you
okay.
don't understand anything in the batch of the sessions, directly go into the certification material, because those things are theoretical in nature. You won't understand a single thing what is there. So chances are you will most probably not be able to clear the certification. So that is why from 2017, when we are taking this session, we are always saying complete the session, then you have all the material, understand everything, then read the materials, you can clear it in one attempt only. There won't be any issue.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. It was a nice explanation. Thank you, Manoj.
Yeah, welcome, Sachin. Just a moment. Mohammed, can you please go ahead with your query? Mohammed, I think you need to unmute yourself. I think he went offline. Okay, not an issue. But I think for today, guys, yeah, of course, punch out catalog we are going to understand. Of course. See, that is why I said that when I said that we are going to understand catalog loading. Now, here I'm talking about non-contract catalog loading. Contract catalog loading will come through the contract compliance, right? So when I'm saying non-contract catalog item, so there two things will be there: static catalog and punch out catalog. So we are going to understand that how to distinguish between a static catalog, punch out catalog. But again, majority of the trainer or majority of the Ariba consultant, what they understand is from a technical background. This is a simple question, simple interview question which I will ask to know whether this guy has real practical experience in punch out catalog or static catalogs or not. Can a supplier, a single supplier, supply you static catalogs as well as punch out catalogs? Majority of them will basically say yes. Why? Punch out enabled is there. Whenever punch out catalog is there, punch out enabled is equal to true. When static catalog is there, punch out enabled is equal to false. That's it. A same supplier can give you these things. Then I say, you're theoretically very good, but you have never worked in a project. Okay, why? Because whenever you're dealing with a punch out catalog, that supplier will have a website. Within the website, they will maintain all their catalog item. So how come a particular supplier say that I'm having a website with some data and some Other catalog items I don't maintain in that website. So kya matlab, what actually, Amazon is saying some product is available in the Amazon website, some are available in my dukan or sorry, stores. No, that will never work. So either the supplier will have a website with all the data, or they will not have a website. So from a business perspective, either a supplier can be a punch out supplier or a static supplier. They cannot be same at both, they cannot be same at same time. They cannot be a static catalog supplier as well as punch out catalog supplier. So this is how we are going to understand it. Understand this process from business perspective. Why? Because you are implementing Ariba for businesses or clients, not standard best, standard process in Ariba. Okay. Now there is another question. Is it possible to transmit PO invoice from Ariba? Now again, uh, if you are talking about the PO and invoice integration between Ariba buyer and ERP, yes, that is possible. But if you are saying to me that supplier supplier is having their own ERP and they want to basically see the PO in their ERP rather than in Ariba network. Yes, that is also possible. But in that case, we cannot do any configuration. Why? Because you will see in that scenario, SAP Ariba shared services will come into the picture. They will basically ask the supplier, give us all your detail about the ERP, and they will integrate the ERP, supplier's ERP with that of Ariba network. So that means whenever a buyer will send a PO to a supplier in Ariba network, it will be automatically be routed to the supplier's ERP. But remember, this integration of Ariba network with that of supplier ERP, this does not fall in our scope. We can't do any configuration on that part. If this particular option is required, we cannot do anything. We can just suggest to our client, if your supplier is asking this thing, take this thing in mail. Once you are having this thing in the mail, ask Ariba Shared Services to activate this feature. They will activate it, they will test it, and we will also help them in testing it, and then it will happen. So this is the second option. Okay. Yeah. So this is what, guys, which we wanted to cover in today's session. And tomorrow we are also having our session 1. We will begin with sourcing, and from tomorrow the real fun begins. Why? Because today was the basic building which was required. Now once we are having our basic building today ready, so from tomorrow we can start our building of ground floor, then first floor, then second floor. Exactly. It will keep on going up. So in that way we are going to go forward. Now, since today is our demo session, I cannot ask any of you guys to basically go ahead and basically start watching the recordings. Why? Because as I said, this G drive access will be sent to you when you register for these sessions. So my suggestion is to all of you guys that our BREs are there: business relationship executive, Sana, Pallavi, Krishna, Nikita, Iraj. So get in touch after this, demo session. It's going to conclude very soon, within 2-3 minutes only. After this session concludes, get in touch with them and register yourself for this session. Once you register yourself with the session, what will happen is, like, within one day, all of you will basically get the G drive. So by, if you register today, so by tomorrow evening you will get the G drive. But if you suggest that no, not today, I will do the registration on Sunday, what will happen? On Monday evening you will get the G drive access. Now why I'm saying G drive access is very, very important, because you will get the recording first. Documents, of course, you will get it, but the recording is the most important thing. Why? Because going forward from tomorrow, I will ask all of you guys, okay, you have attended the session, very good. You'll forget it after one day. So you have to go through this recording and you have to watch the recording, understand the process multiple times. Just like when we open up a book, we'll read it one time, we will not understand anything. We have to read it multiple times to get an idea about it. Same thing about this recording. So GDrive access is very, very important. So I will urge all of you guys that any of you guys who want to basically register as soon as possible, don't wait till, okay, let's wait for Sunday, let's wait for Monday. Why? Because you will lose this precious day. Now, all of you will say, Manoj, it does not matter. Think about it. Tomorrow, sourcing is happening. All these things, what we have basically understood today, will you be able to remember all these things tomorrow morning? If not, what will happen is like the understanding of sourcing will be a little bit less. Now, next Saturday, Sunday, we'll continue with sourcing and then we will begin with contracting. So, along with demo, sourcing and contracting also getting completed. Then next week, we are going into template configuration. What is happening? Extra work is happening. So please don't think that, okay, it's just a 1 day delay or 2 days delay, because in every week we are covering new topics and this will keep on piling up. And let's say after 4 weeks, I will say to you, 8 sessions we have completed. Okay. The last 2 sessions is very important for you to watch, but the other 6 sessions, 2 sessions which we have completed in this week, very good. Watch it. But the other 6 sessions also you have to remember. Why? Because this was one of the biggest issue which we have noticed with majority of the participant, that when we will reach half the mark, that means we will complete upstream and we will go to downstream. After some time in downstream, participant will say to me that, Manoj, I have forgotten the upstream. Why? Because you're of course not following through. So that is why get the access of G Drive. So for getting it, please do register as soon as possible so that you can go and watch the recordings. My suggestion is take the record, register for today. Okay, get the G Drive access as soon as possible so that tomorrow evening, what will happen is like you will all get the access and you can go through the demo session first, then the first session recordings as well. So what will happen, you have attended both the session and on Sunday evening itself you have gone through the first demo session. On Monday morning, you, or Monday afternoon, or maybe in the night when you find time, go through the first session. You will understand these things much more clearer. So that is my suggestion to all of you guys. Okay, enough of lecturing, I think. So it's almost like 10:30 a.m. we said we are going to end. It's almost like 11, so 3.5 hours we made, but again, not an issue. Why? Because as I said, passion. This is a passion, not some business. Okay, 7:30 a.m. sharp we will start, 10:30 a.m. sharp we will close. No, it's not like that. It's a passion. Okay, so first of all, uh, thank thanks to all of the candidates for joining our demo session. Along with that, thanks a lot to Sana, Pallavi, and Krishna for organizing this demo session, for uh, for conducting these sessions. Thanks a lot to you, Sana, Pallavi, and Krishna. Okay, and let's conclude our session for today. And thanks to all of you guys for participating in our session. And let's conclude our demo session for today. Tomorrow we will have our session 1. Please use the same link to log in tomorrow. Okay, yeah. So let's conclude our session for the day. Okay, and we will meet once again tomorrow at the same time over there, guys. Yeah, have a good day ahead
Thank you,
to
Manoj,
those of you guys who are in India.
thank you, Manoj, for this wonderful session.
Yeah, most welcome, Pallavi. Yeah. And another thing, guys, to those of you guys who are in India, have a good day ahead. And to those of you guys who are in US, have a great sleep, because right now we know it's almost sleeping time. So go and sleep ahead, wake up and have a good day ahead when in the morning. Yeah. So let's conclude our session for the day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks
Thank you,
everyone.
Manoj. Thank you.